People on the streets of the empire discussed the fact that the empress spent all her time in pleasure and debauchery, while her subordinates suffered from hunger and poverty. Anyone who dares to express their dissatisfaction is beheaded. Her hair is dyed with the blood of those killed, so everyone calls her the Scarlet Empress. One guy told the narrator that the queen might turn her head on him for telling such things about her. Then, he asked to bring beautiful girls to them. His friend said it was about time, adding that wine doesn't taste as good unless there's a pretty girl around. The woman brought them 5 young beauties. The guy approached one girl and lifted her dress. When she was indignant, he said that she would soon be filming it anyway. He then moved on to another girl. The young man told the woman that today he chooses this girl. The woman said it was her first time here. He added that it would be even more interesting. The blonde guy held the girl close to him and told her that he would be the first one she would spend the night with. Suddenly, his friend poured sake from a jug directly on his head. He indignantly asked why he did this. The friend replied that this young girl was shocked by his behavior. He came closer to her and asked how old she was. The girl replied that she had only recently become an adult. The dark-haired guy said that this place was not for her and asked her to leave here. Then she grabbed his hand and said that she wanted to serve him today. The blonde guy pushed her away and indignantly asked how she dared to touch the third son of the advisor. He told her that this gentleman was leaving for the palace tomorrow to become prince consort. The girl asked the young man in surprise if this was so. The guy replied that his friend was right, and tomorrow he would be chosen as the empress, and also will bear the most honorable title that a man can bear. He added that he would become a prince consort, and would have to conceive a princess with the lovely empress. The girl asked the guy to tell her more stories about the imperial palace. The guy replied that he would be happy to tell her about what he knew. Whoever becomes prince consort is required to wear a variety of shoes every day. The young man added that he never thought that he would ever have to wear such small shoes, and also that now he will not be able to set foot outside the palace. The guy said that the prince consort's face should look flawless in red and gold colors. The decorations on your head should correspond to the flower of your birth month. However, those who were born in the same month as the empress in November do not count. The prince is obliged to constantly paint his cheeks and lips, and carry a jar of perfume with him every night. Now he will become the person who must replenish the empress's energy in the most intimate way. He will be prince consort. Handsome guys in luxurious clothes with flowers on their heads sat on their knees with their heads bowed. The empress approached each of them. When Her Majesty approached him, the dark-haired guy saw only her slender legs. The girl asked him to raise his head and look into her eyes. The empress said that she had already seen him before, and the guy was shocked because he recognized her. This was the girl he talked to last night. Her Majesty asked the young man why he was trembling so much. She asked if it was because he had been partying all night with geishas the night before the day of his election. The guy begged for mercy. He swore he didn't know it was her. But the empress waved her sword and asked why it was so difficult for her to find a worthy husband. The girl added that she would have to get rid of all these guys. She killed all the contenders and said that the election was over. The guy opened his eyes and saw that he was left alone. The empress sat on the throne. Someone else's blood dripped from her hands, flowing down her legs and dripping onto the floor. Her Majesty turned to the dark-haired guy. She said it was his turn to please her tonight. The empress left, and the guy thought about the fact that a lot has changed in the empire lately. During the reign of the previous empress, it could not have happened that so many sons of the nobility were killed. The guy understood that if he somehow upset her, he would be killed immediately. Seeing his naked body, the empress lying in the bathtub said that yesterday he was more reserved, saying that she was too young for such activities. But a little later, after their conversation, he did what she wanted. The young man apologized once again to Her Majesty for what happened tonight. The girl said that everything was fine and asked if he could do it again if she chose him as her husband. The guy replied that it was his duty. He added that he was obliged to give her a princess who would succeed her like an empress. These words touched her memories. She had already heard this phrase so many times. Each of the previous prince candidates promised to give her a princess. The empress got up from the bath and asked thing. Then she said that there is only one person capable of ruling these lands, and that person is she. The guy immediately remembered the man's story. The story is about how the empress of their kingdom spends all her time in pleasure and debauchery, while her subordinates suffer from hunger and poverty. Anyone who dares to express their indignation is beheaded. Her hair is dyed with the blood of the dead, which is why everyone calls her the Scarlet Empress. Her Majesty asked the guy if he was impressed that her hair was so red. The girl said that she is the only person in this country with this hair color. She added that it was blood in her hair, and even if she washes them or soaks them in ink, the blood of those she killed will still appear again and again. The Empress said that she understood who she was and came to terms with it. The guy asked to spare him, but the girl committed murder again. She was sitting covered in blood when General Un came to her. Her Majesty ordered him to tell all the lords that from now on there would be an election every day. The girl added that it doesn't matter who they are. Simpletons or nobles, everyone should participate. If they fail to prove themselves, they will be rewarded by execution. In the city, they actively began to discuss the fact that the Empress killed all the candidates for princes. One guy said that this is not an empire, but a complete mess. The second guy added that this happens when a woman is in power. The first guy said that he assumed it would be like this when the serpent cast the curse. That curse prohibited men from taking the throne. He added that the end of the empire would soon come with a woman on the throne. Suddenly, someone put a blade to his neck. General Un told the guy that this would soon be the end of him. He asked the guy how he dared insult the Empress. The general waved his sword. The two men who were standing nearby and begging for mercy fell to their knees and covered their faces with their hands. General Un cut the young man's lips with his sword, and he screamed in pain. Then the general said that, although they are stupid, this does not stop them from being subjects of Her Majesty. He added that they should be grateful to her, since Her Majesty asked him to be merciful to the inhabitants of the empire. But he warned that for insulting a member of the ruling family, the next time they would lose their heads. In the evening, the Empress again called General Ung to her place. She was sitting on the floor covered in blood. The girl asked the general to remove the lifeless, bloody body of the man after her. General Un told Her Majesty that the people were agitated, and even the chief minister is afraid to open his mouth after losing his beloved son. The girl grabbed him by the hair and asked how dare he tell her what to do. General Un told the Empress that his life was now in her hands. The Empress asked how she could kill a man who was just like a brother to her. The girl asked him to wash the blood from her hands, and she said that all of yesterday's candidates were chosen by Lord Yom. Her Majesty asked to bring to her any man who does not belong to the palace. She added that social status does not matter. The Empress said that everyone in this palace wants only one thing, for her to continue this damned family. The green-haired guy worked in the Imperial Library. He loved books very much and was sad that no one in the Empire wanted to read them. Most people in the Empire could neither read nor write. For more than a year, no one except him had crossed the threshold of the library. He was afraid that it might be closed. The librarian was looking for a book with fairy tales, and the moment he found her, someone shot her with an arrow. Then he saw a young man running away from someone. The guy begged Her Majesty to spare him, but she still shot him with a bow. The green-haired guy took the young man and hid him between the bookshelves. Then he showed the fugitive a secret exit from the library to the street, and the young man with an arrow in his shoulder thanked his savior and asked him to give his name. The librarian said his name was Kanhi. Before leaving, the young man said that he would someday repay him for his help. Kanhi thought that he would not need it because he was now a dead man. Behind him, he heard the Empress's voice. She asked how he dared to steal her booty from her. The guy thought that it would be good to die quickly. He wanted her to kill him right now, rather than give him a painful death. The girl said that he would have to please her with his blood instead of that guy. The Empress noticed that the guy was not afraid of her. She came closer to him and said that he was quite handsome, so she would let him live for now. In Her Majesty's chambers, the guy began to scream when the maids tried to undress him. The Empress could not believe that he was refusing intimacy with her. For the first time, a man did not want to sleep with her. She told him that most men willingly prostrate themselves in front of her in order to achieve their goals. The Empress took her sword and said that she was very sorry. She added that she thought he would last longer than others. Her Majesty came closer to the guy and asked what his last words would be. Kanhi thought for a moment and looked into her eyes. The guy said that the skin under her eyes has a pronounced dark color. The girl was very surprised. She didn't expect him to say exactly that instead of the last word. Kanhi said that there is an old saying, "The darkest place is directly below the light source." The guy suggested that government affairs took up too much of her time, and so she doesn't have time to take care of herself. The Empress said that she did not remember him calling himself a doctor. The guy replied that he had read a lot of books on medicine during all these years of working in the library. Her Majesty said it was very interesting and asked what she should do. As she lowered the sword, Connie said that the answer was very simple, but it would be quite difficult to follow the instructions. This interested the Empress. The librarian added that every day she would need to eat a portion of fresh vegetables and wild salmon, which contained the power to help it resist the flow of the river. The Empress laughed and said that he was stupid if he thought that she could not get vegetables and fish. Then Connie said that people have no power over the laws of nature. Due to famine, the fields and pastures are empty, and the peasants have no work. Therefore, all that was left for them was robbery in the mountains or robbery of ships, and those who tried to do at least something were killed by the same robbers. The guy told what was happening in their waters. The fish are caught without even giving it a chance to lay eggs. Her Majesty got angry and said that she would order her troops to wipe out these robbers from the face of the earth, and everything would return to normal. Connie reassured the Empress and said that now she needs to think about something else. He said she needed to turn off the light and get some sleep. The girl, lying on his lap, laughed loudly. The young man asked what was funny about this. The Empress asked him if he had not heard what rumors were circulating about her throughout the empire. She added that he was probably so busy with his books that he had not spoken to people for a long time. The girl said that she spends all her time dancing and drinking. Connie said that we need to rest from this too. The Empress smiled and said he was funny. Then after thinking for a while, she said he was right, and she hasn't slept since that day. Her Majesty admitted that if she doesn't have a man for at least one night and doesn't kill anyone, she simply won't be able to sleep. Then Kan He said that although he is not suitable for her as a man, he thinks that he can give her a healthy sleep. The girl asked how he would do this. The guy said that he would fill her mind with the wonderful fairy tales that his mother told him, and the myths that contain all the wisdom of this world. The Empress said he was quite convincing. The girl asked him to tell her a fairy tale, but promised to execute him if he didn't succeed. Kan He gave his word that everything would work out, and asked Her Majesty to make herself comfortable. She lay down on the pillow and the librarian began his story. A long time ago, in a land far, far away, there lived a girl. She earned her living by collecting seafood and selling it to the villagers. She was an excellent fisherman. No one could compare with her in fishing, but no one could have imagined that the girl understood the language of fish. And then one day, while swimming, she witnessed an unusual scene. Two mermaids were fighting each other. Their sharp voices cut through the water. The girl decided to help the merman who was being beaten and scared the other one. But suddenly she felt bad because she had been in the water for too long. She thought that this was already the end, and she would forever remain in the abyss of the sea. But opening her eyes, the girl saw that she was lying on the shore. In front of her, she saw a green-haired merman who saved her. He lay on top of her and opened his mouth. At first, she was a little scared, but then she thought that becoming his bride was not the worst option. The girl relaxed and said that she was ready to do what he wanted. When she tried to kiss him, the merman jumped away from her and asked what she was doing. The girl said that she appreciates persistent guys, but does not find passive ones attractive. After thinking a little, she told the merman not to bother himself and decided to go home. But suddenly, he grabbed the girl's hand and said that he couldn't let her go. Russell added that he could not leave her alive the way she saw people like him. The girl was shocked and reminded the guy that she saved him, and he said that he was very sorry, but this was the sacred code of their family. Then the girl asked the merman why they were fighting, and why the other merman tried to kill him. The guy said that it is customary for them to fight to the death during the breeding season. The girl listened to him carefully and asked a question. She asked if he thought it was right to kill someone who saved his life. Moreover, to do this because of the old code, in which they are forced to kill each other. Russell told the girl that she was right in some ways and asked her who she was. The girl made the fish jump out of the sea and hit the boy's head. Then she replied that she was human, but was born with a special gift. She admitted that from birth she knew how to communicate with fish. The girl said that they even help her fishing, and sometimes she manages to catch big fish. Then she kissed the merman and said that all the fish in this sea could become his. The Empress asked the librarian how he came up with such a wonderful story about a half-man and half-fish, and whether such a place really existed. Connie said that this place only exists in stories, but there were rumors that people had seen mermaids in the sea. Then, he asked Her Majesty what she was thinking about. The Empress asked if it was possible to fill a pool in the palace with salt water and let the mermaids in there. Kan He didn't know how to respond until Her Majesty said she was joking. When she said that she was simply dying of curiosity about what happened next, The guy continued. He said that the girl visited the merman every day. They swam and went fishing together. The couple was happy. But one day something happened that changed their lives forever. They had a child. In the city at the market, people began to discuss that they had not seen the girl who used to bring them fish every day for a long time. One lady said she needed seaweed. Another woman said she was going to her house to see if everything was okay. When she knocked on the door, no one answered. The woman remembered that the girl was usually fishing at this time and went to the beach. From what she saw there, her basket fell and all her eggs broke. She saw the girl sitting on the merman's tail and kissing him on the lips. The woman ran to the market in horror and told everyone what she had seen. At this time, the girl continued to kiss her lover. She asked the merman why he still hadn't told her his name. The young man said that the names of mermaids are extremely difficult, due to the fact that they rarely use them in everyday life. The girl said that she would try to remember him. Then the merman told her his name. The girl said it was very beautiful. The name given to the mermaid is what describes his entire life. And today she heard his name. Multicolored fish and blue shells. Iridescent eyes of turtles that have lived for hundreds of years. Ocean currents carrying cold polar waters to the warm tropical ocean and glaciers from afar. All this is the true name of the mermaid. And this girl was the only one who could remember such a long name. The mermaid hugged the girl and said that he would also like to know her name. The girl laughed at the fact that he wanted to know the name so late. The young man said that he had never asked anyone's name before, but with her it was different. She was the mother of his child. Then the girl said that she had no name. Rusal was very surprised by this, and the girl said that her parents abandoned her when she was little, and they did this because she was born a girl. The girl asked her lover to give her a name. She said she liked long names like his. "If your whole life becomes your name, I think it's not too late to start mine," she added. Rusal came up with a name for her, and the girl said that it was wonderful. The woman in the market shouted that that fisherman girl must be mad. She told everyone that that monster was making strange screeching sounds, and the girl was rubbing her whole body against its fin. One guy said they should go and punish her for their despicable perversion. Another guy stopped him and said it could be dangerous, because they have no idea what this monster is capable of. Therefore, it would be better to report this incident to local authorities. And the first guy agreed with him. The girl screamed and asked to let her go. She asked the men why they grabbed her and where they took her husband. The woman slapped her in the face and told her to stop talking nonsense. The old woman shouted that it was not her husband. And besides, the whole village raised her, but she turned into something unknown. Then, she grabbed the girl by the hair and began hitting her on the head. The woman shouted that she had become a disgrace to the entire village, and that it would be better for her to die. Suddenly, she was interrupted by a guy who was the head of the village. The head asked for silence in order to make a verdict. He told everyone that this criminal not only did not report the presence of the monster in the village, but also decided to marry him without the permission of the village head, because the girl became close to a terrible monster never seen before. The head of the village sentenced her to 100 lashes and castration of her femininity. The head of the village placed a bowl of a blood-colored drink in front of the girl. After he poured its contents into her mouth, the guy said that after drinking it today, she ceased to be a woman. He added that for the crime she committed, for marrying a monster, for desecrating the entire village, she would spend the rest of her life in prison and repentance. The girl knew that if she drank this drink, she would not die. She will feel like her soul has died. She will never be able to love again. Her long hair was cut off, and the villagers deliberately began to throw garbage onto the seashore so that no more merman could approach the shore. The girl called her beloved. From these screams, the Empress woke up and jumped up in horror. She was all wet and trembling with fear. Kanhe asked Her Majesty if everything was okay. The girl said that he promised that his stories would help her relax, but he only made things worse. The guy apologized and said he didn't mean it. The Empress said she didn't want to listen to his stories anymore. Kanhe bowed his head to Her Majesty and said that his life is in her hands. The girl grabbed the guy by the hair and asked if he deserved to die. Kanhe asked Her Majesty why she was so upset. The Empress replied that he himself knew. She grabbed her sword and swung at him, saying that it was all because of his stories. The librarian added that this story does not yet have an ending, but the Empress said that this does not matter. Then, Kanhe said that while dying he would pray for her health, safety, and for her reign. The Empress raised her sword to his head and asked why he was not afraid of death. Her Majesty said that people usually tremble before they die. Without waiting for an answer, the Empress drove the librarian out of her chambers. She said she didn't want to see him anymore. After Kan He left, General Un asked the Empress if she was okay. He said he would kill this guy if he upset Her Majesty. The girl slapped him in the face and told him she was done with it. General Un did not expect such a reaction from the Empress. He said he heard her order. People in the city were whispering that a month had already passed since the Empress chose the man to sleep with. One girl said that everyone in the Empire is afraid of her, but she added that there is a person even more frightening than the Empress. Her Majesty was informed that Lord Yem had arrived. Even the sound of his steps disgusted her. The Prince of the Empire, Lord Yem, approached the throne where the Empress sat. Her Majesty asked him what brought him to her. She added that they had not seen each other for a long time. Lord Yem knelt down and told Her Majesty that her subject was here to meet the great Empress of this nation. Then he stood up and said that he had heard that Her Majesty refused to choose a husband for herself, and he even refuses the services of concubines. The young man said that he believed that the Empress should fulfill her duties and continue the imperial line by giving birth to an heir. The Empress clenched her teeth in anger. Her Majesty replied to the Lord that it was not so easy to receive young men every night with such a fragile body. She asked if it would be a grave sin for the Empress if something happened to her because she worked too hard to give birth to an heir. Lord Yem told the Empress that she answered this question very wisely. Then he said that he simply wanted Her Majesty fulfilled her duties well. At dinner, Lord Yem told the Empress that he had prepared these delicious dishes especially for her. And this salmon is considered a delicacy brought from southern rivers. The Empress immediately remembered the green-haired guy from the library who told her about fish. The girl immediately scolded herself for such thoughts. When Lord Yem offered to drink to Her Majesty, everyone raised their sake glasses and shouted, "Long live the Empress!" The girl looked at the Lord, who had blood pouring from his mouth. Everyone started shouting that he had been poisoned and calling for a doctor. The Empress just smiled silently and continued drinking sake. Lord Yem told the Empress that a puppet show had been prepared especially for her, and the girl realized that it was all just her imagination. The Empress was a little upset, although she understood that he would never fall into such a trap. So she decided to stop thinking about the impossible. The performance has begun. First, the Python God of Rivers came out. The narrator began the story. When the first emperor of the empire began construction of the capital, he killed a python that lived on the site of the future palace. Dying, the python sent a curse on the empire which reads, "If anyone seizes the imperial throne, the empire will fall." When the emperor fell ill and was already on his deathbed, the Empress appointed the princess as heir to the throne. Since then, empresses continued to rule in the Cha Empire. The empresses ruled with wisdom and skill, slowly dispelling the people's worries and winning their hearts. "Long live the Empress!" the actors shouted. Her Majesty applauded and said that it was a magnificent performance and a pleasure to watch. Only the Empress added that they flattered her very much. The Empress asked if they truly believed that she ruled with wisdom and skill. The girl added that she masterfully wields a sword, so in some ways they are right. But Her Majesty told the actor that this was all no good, because they are just stupid puppets in the hands of the puppeteer Lord Yem. Lord Yem approached the Empress and said that he was simply trying to relieve Her Majesty of any burden. The ruler asked if he was now, as always, thinking about the best for the empire. The Lord took the glass from her and said that now he was thinking that she had drunk too much. Then, the young man invited the Empress to relax a little and go to bed with him. After these words, the Empress immediately pretended that she had lost consciousness. Then, Lord Yem ordered the maids to escort Her Majesty to her chambers. He told the Empress that she could rest for now and let him deal with everything. The Empress remembered herself as a child. She remembered one specific day. Then she rejoiced at the flowers that grew thanks to her caring for them. The girl wove a wreath from them and gave it to her older sister. The girl said that she liked this wreath even much more than the imperial crown. Then the girl told her sister that she would always be by her side when she became Empress. The girl cried and said that she was grateful that she had it. The girl asked her sister why she was crying, but she did not answer her. Suddenly, Lord Yem walked up to them and told the girl that it was time for her lessons. Then he asked Her Majesty if she was going to go to class with these flowers on her head. The girl quickly took off the wreath and said that she did not want this. The girl was upset that her sister took her wreath from her head, and Lord Yem came up to her and asked why the princess didn't take flower arrangement lessons if she was bored. The princess replied that she would like to take lessons in royal government and economics, like her sister. She added that she had already told him about this many times. Lord Yem listened to her and told her that she did not need to learn such things. The young man also added that only he could help the Empress. The girl began to cry and called the Lord too impudent. Then she asked if he dared to go against her wishes, remembering that she was a representative of the imperial family. The Lord told the princess that her words were true and came closer to her. He apologized to the princess and pushed her with one hand. The girl fell into the water, flying over the railing. She saw only his smiling face and the receding sky, approaching the bottom of the lake. Just when she thought she was almost dead without air, Lord Yem pulled her out of the water. He yelled at the maids for leaving the princess unattended. Lord Yem said that he saved Her Highness. Then he hit one of the maids and said that her whole family would pay if anything happened to the princess. The girl tried to scream that he was the one who did this to her. But from his terrifying look, she realized that she could not do anything against him. She lost to Lord Yem that day. The princess believed that she was defeated then, now and forever. The Empress remembered that day and wondered whether it was worth living a lost life. She thought it would be easier to die that day. The Empress got out of bed and told her maid Soha that she would go for a walk in the garden. The girl said that she must accompany Her Majesty, since the time was already quite late. The Empress asked to be left alone and left. Kani was arranging books in the library and saw a book about mermaids. He immediately remembered the Empress's ringing laughter and the way she lay on his lap. Throwing away these thoughts, the guy decided that it was time to finish work and went outside to get some fresh air. Kani noticed the full moon and began to admire it. Suddenly he saw her. The girl stood and looked at the water. The young man remembered how close they were to each other then, and immediately scolded himself for such thoughts. Kani did not even notice how Her Majesty jumped into the water. He quickly jumped after her and pulled her ashore. The girl did not react to anything, and the guy shouted if she could hear him. The young man apologized in advance and began to massage the heart. The Empress opened her eyes and told the guy that he was brave to touch her in that place. When she spoke, Kani hugged the Empress tightly and admitted that he was very afraid for her. He said he was glad she was okay. The guy wanted to call someone for help, but the girl stopped him and kissed him. Kanhi wanted to say something, but she asked him to remain silent and kissed him again. Then the girl asked Kani not to tell anyone that he saw her here. The young man took Her Majesty in his arms and said that he would take her to a safe place. The Empress assumed that he wanted to take revenge on her for what she did to him last time. The guy replied that he in no way wanted to harm her. He added that he simply wanted to take her to his home and light a fire so that Her Majesty would not get sick from her wet clothes. At home, Kanhi brewed hot tea and brought it to the bed for the Empress. The girl asked the young man to come closer and help her change clothes. The guy became shy, and the Empress asked if he dared to disobey her order. Kani replied that he would not dare, and walked up to the bed on which the Empress was sitting. The young man sat down next to her and began to dry her wet hair with a towel. Her Majesty asked how he saved her, and Kani replied that he simply used CPR. The Empress was surprised, and the guy said that this was written about in a book that he had recently come across. The girl laughed and asked if it was true that his books had answers to any questions. A minute later, she admitted to Kanha that she had been sleeping very well since he told her that story. The young man said that he was very glad that he could help her. Then the Empress asked to tell her another story. Kanhi thanked Her Majesty for allowing him to be of service to her. The librarian said that the story did not end with the girl being expelled from the village. The young man asked if Her Majesty would allow the story to continue. The girl turned to him and screamed. She said he couldn't imagine the suffering she went through thinking it was the end. Kanhi said that he would continue the story when Her Majesty was ready, and the girl quickly calmed down. Then he asked her to close her eyes and focus on his voice. The girl lay down on the bed and said that she could not relax because she was still cold. Kanhi apologized to Her Majesty for forgetting to light the fire, but the Empress asked the young man not to go and make a fire, but instead to lie down next to her and hug her. The guy couldn't decide on this for a long time, and the girl told him to calm down and just lie down next to her, and Kanhi did as Her Majesty told him. The Empress pressed herself against his chest, and the guy wrapped his arms around her body. They lay in an embrace. Her warm breath touched his heart like fire in the night. Not knowing where this warmth started, not knowing that this night would never return, they became one. The girl was abandoned on an isolated island where lepers lived. Because the short-haired girl was no different from lepers, there they gave her an empty house to live in. Many days have passed since then. The girl often went to the beach and swam in the sea. She did not forget the cold blue sea to which she belonged. The fisherman hasn't changed at all. She was still the same girl with a passionate heart, burning with love. Every day she went fishing and shared her catch with the residents. One day, the villagers introduced her to a girl who was called a mermaid. They brought her to her and told her that she would be at her house. The stranger had a hood on her head. Therefore, all that the mermaid could see was her bright red hair like hers, and yellow eyes. The girl said that she didn't mind taking her with her. The next morning, the fisherman woke up the girl, threw off the blanket and said that it was time to get up. The guest attacked her and began to choke her. The fisherman threw her off and said that it was almost noon and time to work. The girl asked why she couldn't sleep a little more. The owner told her that it doesn't work like that here. She added that she could give her free fish, but she would not allow her to stay in her house. Therefore, you will have to work hard. The girl in the hood was languishing in the heat. The fisherman noticed that she had stopped working and told her to concentrate and place the fish correctly. The guest asked why they were doing this at all. She added that fish tastes better when it's fresh. The girl told her that the rainy season was approaching. Therefore, it becomes harder for people to swim, and fish and other marine life will dive deeper to avoid rough waters. The fisherman explained that by drying the fish this way, they would be able to store it longer. She added that it is tiring but necessary. The girl told the guest that she could rest after shucking the oysters. Then she threw a bag over her shoulder and said that she was going to the shore. The guest was very happy and told the fisherman that she wanted to go with her and learn to fish as skillfully as she did. The girl replied that it is not as easy as it seems. She didn't want to take her with her. Also, one of the reasons was that the fisherman knew how to talk to fish. After thinking a little, the girl asked the guest if she knew how to swim. The stranger said yes, and they went to the beach. When they approached the cliff, the fisherman said that it could be dangerous in the depths, so she better stay in the shallows and collect shellfish. The fisherman began to warm up and said that this was necessary so that the muscles did not cramp. Then, she noticed that the girl was afraid and came closer to her. Suddenly, the stranger stabbed her in the stomach with her knife and threw her off a cliff into the sea. The girl took off her hood and, falling from the cliff, the fisherman noticed gills on her ears. The mermaid stood over the cliff and watched the fisherman fall into the water. Tears flowed from her eyes. Wiping her tears, she jumped into the water. Her legs instantly turned into fins, and her entire body was covered with scales and gills. She grabbed the girl's hand and said that she would not let her leave. At that moment, it seemed to the fisherman that her beloved was rushing to her aid. The mermaid hugged the girl and prayed that she would survive. "Your name is the Eye of the Storm, which gives calmness among many fish," the merman said then, and admitted that he swam a lot against high waves, but he was powerless in front of her. He also said that she is a wave that can reach the stars, but everything dissipates like waves in the ocean. Russell said that she is a tsunami. He added that he had seen many beautiful things in his life, but compared to her name, it was nothing. The young man said that she was his love, holding an egg in his hands. That's where the baby's name started. The girl was given the most beautiful name of all, and later, the worst thing. Standing on the shore and watching her father die, she called him. The girl told her father that she had come up with a name for him that would be his last, and now his name is Fool. She added that their mother abandoned them and left them alone at sea. The fisherman woke up and saw in front of her an old woman who was sitting next to her while she was sleeping. The girl noticed a wound on her stomach from which blood was flowing. She asked the old woman where the girl who was with her was. The woman replied that she herself was wondering where she had gone. She added that the whole village was already looking for her. The hooded woman said she was worried about that girl because she couldn't talk. The fisherman was very surprised to hear about this. After all, she understood everything that girl told her. And the old lady said that the girl could only make sounds and did not speak words at all. When the girl realized that she was the only one who understood the stranger, she ran out of the house, telling the old woman that she needed to go. A woman tried to stop a fisherman who was oozing blood from a wound on her stomach. She said that she had just stitched up her wound, so she needed to lie down. But the girl pushed her away and said that she needed to find that girl. The woman said that they were already looking for her, so she could rest for now. The fisherman did not listen to her and ran into the forest, shouting to the woman that she must find her daughter. The girl ran until she came across a hood that was lying on the road. She knew it was a mermaid's hood, but this road led to the mountains. The girl thought why the mermaid should go to the mountains instead of the sea, and quickly ran up. At the very top of the mountain, among the forest, she found her daughter. The girl lay on the ground and gradually died without water. The girl screamed and the girl opened her eyes. The fisherman asked her daughter not to die, but she said that it was too late. She added that she would soon die because there was no water nearby. The girl said that she and her father were waiting for her on the beach, but he died, and his last name was Fool. She said it became her first name. Then the mermaid admitted that she was looking for her in order to kill her. But as her father said, she could not help but fall in love with her. She said sorry, and added that this was her last name. The mermaid closed her eyes and her mother said that her first name was not stupid. She is the eye of the storm, the wave and tsunami that the stars hide. Mom added that she would not let her die, and she won't let sorry be her last name. The fisherman told her daughter that she would become her ocean and pulled the thread from her wound. Her blood gushed onto the mermaid's face. The girl felt like she was drowning in the ocean in a human body. Then she remembered that she couldn't drown because she was a mermaid, and she continued to sink. Her father told her since childhood about a woman she had never met. He said that she is a person and she is her mother. Therefore, the girl decided to live on land to find her. However, she realized that she did not belong there. She had to return to the sea from time to time to breathe. The girl opened her eyes and asked her mother what happened. The fisherman replied that she gave her some of her blood instead of water. But they need to hurry up and find the sea. The mermaid looked at her mother's wound and said that they needed to return to the village to have it stitched up. She added that she didn't want her mom to die because of her. The girl smiled and asked her daughter if she wanted the villagers to see her beautiful ears. The mermaid blushed, and the fisherman touched her face with her hand and said that she was glad to see her. She said she was so glad they met and couldn't believe how much she had grown up so quickly in just 1 year. Then, she apologized for not being able to be there when she was growing up. Suddenly, their conversation was interrupted by a woman with a lantern. She told the girl that she was looking for her and came closer to them. When the woman saw the mermaid's ears, she screamed. The fisherman stood in front of her daughter and covered her with herself. She asked the woman not to touch the girl. The woman asked why she was protecting this monster. The girl told the woman not to get too close to them. Then she gave her hand to her daughter and told her to follow her. They ran to the cliff, holding hands, and jumped into the water. They both had a dream where they were swimming in the sea as mermaids, and slowly they dissolved into it. Connie saw that tears were rolling down the Empress's cheek from her closed eyes. They were both startled by a sudden knock on the door. Someone shouted that they were going to break down the doors if they didn't open it for him. The young man went outside, closed the door, and stood in front of her. General Un put his sword to his neck and asked where the Empress was. He added that he knew that he had it. The Empress came out to them, and General Un, along with his subordinates, fell to their knees in front of her. Her Majesty asked how they dared to wake her up. The maid Soha clung to the Empress and said that she was very worried about her. General Un apologized for disturbing Her Majesty. As she was leaving, the Empress asked the librarian if he knew who she was. The green-haired guy said that Her Majesty is the Great Empress, the ruler of all kingdoms. The girl said that he was right, and most people know her as the Empress, but her close servants know her by a different name. Maid Soha and General Un looked at the Empress. The Empress approached the young man and whispered her name in his ear. Irian. She touched his face with her hand and told Connie to come to her palace tomorrow. The young man bowed and said that her imperial decree would be carried out. The librarian added that it was a great honor for him, and the Empress left with her subordinates. The next morning, when Connie came to the palace, he was dressed in an elegant dress and scarlet flowers were woven into his hair. While Soha decorated his hair, General Un stood next to them and watched. The young man asked what he was doing here if he was just the keeper of the royal library. General Un said he was wrong, because from now on, he is the Empress's husband. Kanhe was shocked, and General Un said that he should be flattered and grateful that the Empress chose such a non-entity like him, and also behave befitting the title. Then the general said that he must escort Lord Kanha to the imperial palace, and he added that he can contact him at any time if necessary. General Un read out the order, which stated that the Empress had generously endowed Mr. Kanhe with the Wisteria Palace. The general told the young man that from now on he no longer lived in his current residence next to the library. Now his new residence is the Wisteria Palace. Kanhe asked in surprise who would take care of the library if he was no longer there. The guy added that it contains valuable books that have been kept for generations. General Un said there was no need to worry about it and pointed to the maids. Kan He saw the girls who were tired from having to carry so many heavy stacks of books. When the guy saw his books, he immediately rushed to them and pressed several books to himself. The maid asked the master to entrust the books to the maids so that he would not stain his outfit. Then the girl said that her name was Soha, and Her Majesty ordered her to be with the master to serve him and take care of him while he was here. When Kan He entered his new palace, he could not believe that all this was happening to him. He had never even heard of the Wisteria Palace before, but now he will live here. Having settled down, the young man thought about when Her Majesty would call him. He missed her sweet laughter and the way they lay in each other's arms so much. Suddenly there was a knock on the door of his chambers. The maid Soka informed Mr. Kani that a guest was waiting for him in the garden. She also prepared drinks so that he could treat the guest. Kani was very surprised that a guest came to him. Going out into the garden, he saw Mr. Yem there. The young man was a little scared, but then he pulled himself together and bowed to him. The librarian said that he was honored to meet Lord Yem in person. There is not a single person in this palace who does not know who Mr. Yem is. The guy thought that not recognizing him would be a huge mistake, but he had a question. Why did he come here? The late empress was the elder sister of the current empress. She died under mysterious circumstances, or rather she was killed. Therefore Mr. Yem ruled the empire as a prince-regent before the empress took the throne. At that time the lord was a strong and cruel ruler, and no one, not even the empress, will dare to go against him now. Lord Yem took Mr. Kana's hand and told him to straighten out. Mr. Yem added that looking at him, he sees a flower that has not yet bloomed and a person who is not yet capable of anything. It's as if he's looking at himself, who stepped into the palace for the first time. Lord Yem asked the maids to leave them alone and told Kani that the Wisteria Palace was built for his late empress. Then, he said that as the new owner of this palace, Mr. Kani should behave appropriately, and hit him on the back with a folded fan to make him straighten out. The Lord added that Mr. Kanhi should not bow his head to his inferiors. Mr. Yem asked how he entertained the empress, with dancing, music, or martial arts. Kanhi replied that he wasn't very good at any of the things he mentioned. The Lord smiled and said that he must be good at pleasing women. When Kani replied that he was a virgin, Yem was very surprised. He said, "Is it possible that the empress has not slept with him yet?" Then, Lord Yem angrily asked the young man how he managed to do it then. Kani replied that he was entertaining Her Majesty with delightful stories that he had read in books. Lord Yem laughed when he heard this answer. He decided that the librarian was lying and trying to hide something from him, but he told the young man that stories are funny. Then Kani asked the master if he also liked to listen to stories. The guy recommended that the Lord visit the library when he has free time. Lord Yem came closer and said in his ear that there are only two types of people: those who like to listen to old fairy tales, and those who have nothing to do. Only small children who don't know any better listen to fairy tales. He added that the empress loved to be entertained by new things, but she wouldn't take him in for stories alone. Lord Yem asked Mr. Kanha if he felt the same way. Yem knew that by continuing to assert his own, he would offend Her Majesty, and if he refuses, he will admit that he lied to him. Then Kani asked Lord Yem if he knew what the first emperor did immediately after he built the capital. Lord Yem laughed and said that he had killed the python. Kani continued and said that the first emperor killed the python, god of rivers. When the python died, he cast a curse. If any of his sons or male descendants took the throne, the empire would fall. And from then on, the Cha Empire was ruled only by empresses. Lord Yem said that the entire empire knows this story. Kani said that he was right, and all the inhabitants of the empire knew this story. Nobles, merchants, workers, servants, as well as small children know her. Although it cannot be seen with the naked eye, stories have connected the hearts of people. With gentle words like the buds of wisteria flowers, and letters with meaning as deep as this lake. Kani added that the empress knows the value of these stories, so she listens to him. Kani knew that by refuting the Lord's words, he would offend the empress's insight, and having recognized his words, he will be forced to abandon his own. Yem realized that he had fallen into his own trap. Seeing the empress running towards them, he bowed to Lord Kanha and said that he believed that he would become a worthy owner of the Wisteria Palace. But only if he is careful. The empress ran up and stood in front of the Lord, covering Kani with herself. Her Majesty asked Mr. Yem what he was doing here. Lord Yem bowed to the Empress and said that he wanted to introduce Mr. Kanhi to the ways of the Wisteria Palace, as its former owner. Then he deflected and said that he had to go. Before leaving, Mr. Yem asked Kanha if he was familiar with the idiom, crouching tiger, hidden dragon. Kanhi asked if this isn't the idiom that describes a person with hidden capabilities and unknown potential. Lord Yem said that he was right, and asked Lord Kanhi to be vigilant in the future. Because as soon as you turn away, you will be destroyed, he thought to himself, and smiled slyly. After Lord Yem left, the Empress asked what they were talking about. Kanhi replied that Lord Yem gave him one piece of advice about life in the Wisteria Palace. The Empress got angry and asked why he was taking her for a fool. Irian asked to tell her the truth. Kanhi thought that in a sense this was true. The girl took his chin with her hand and asked why he didn't look her in the eyes. The young man apologized and the Empress let him go and turned away. She assumed that Lord Yem was using his words and hers as bait to provoke him. Kanhi said that Mr. Yem treated him well, but Irian said that was not the case. And that is why she gave him this palace. The girl added that the way he speaks is very similar to the previous owner of this palace. Kanhi asked Her Majesty in surprise if Mr. Yem was not the previous owner of Wisteria Palace. Irian replied that he was not the true owner. She told the young man how often she and her sister ran here from everyone and admired the stars. They could talk for a long time on different topics. Little Irian showed her sister the stars and said that if you connect them, you will get something similar to a fan. My sister said that this was truly wonderful. But suddenly Irian became sad. When her sister asked her what happened, she replied that the fan reminded her of Mr. Yem. He always has a fan with him and hides his face behind it. The girl admitted that he gave her goosebumps. Then her sister told her that no matter how beautiful the night sky is, it is useless if your eyes are closed. Irian asked her sister what she meant. The girl replied that she should not close her eyes. After all, only then can you see something good in people. There is no need to hate those who are just trying to shine like the stars and make a name for themselves. And little Irian asked her sister if Mr. Yem was causing her trouble. The girl replied that she was fine and smiled. Then she added that this is what happens to empresses. It is a lonely path. Irian screamed that she was wrong. The girl hugged her sister and said that she would never be lonely because she had her. The sister hugged the baby tightly and said that she was very pleased to hear this. Irian said that she and her sister often spent the entire night together talking about the stars. The Empress admitted that her sister's eyes sparkled when she told her stories. The girl snuggled up to Kanhi and said that she sometimes thinks that she is being punished for not following her advice. She guessed she had simply closed her own eyes, and therefore he hates everyone he meets on his way. Her Majesty said that now she does not see the stars in the sky and falls deep into her cave of loneliness. Irian admitted that at the time she could not understand what her sister was saying to her. But only now did she understand what her phrase, "The life of an empress is a lonely path," means. They lay in an embrace, and the girl admitted to Kanha that sitting on the throne leads to loneliness. It penetrates deep into her body, and she hates her life for it. The young man took Her Majesty by the hand and said that he was here, and no matter how long her eyes are closed, he will be next to her. Therefore, she can close them without fear and sleep peacefully. Irian fell asleep soundly and woke up only in the morning. She felt the bed and realized that Kanha was not there. The Empress jumped out of bed and began looking for him everywhere. Running out of the room, she came across her maid Soka. She said that he was with Her Majesty. The girl was afraid that Lord Yem had stolen him and killed him. She ran outside and ran to the pond. Irian looked at the water and decided that she should have died that very day. Suddenly, she heard Kanha's voice calling Her Majesty. He ran up to her with a smile on his face and she hit him in the face with her hand. The Empress screamed how could he leave the palace without her permission after what she had done for him. Kanhi admitted that he had to leave in the middle of the night, because he was informed that his father was seriously ill, so he left quietly so as not to disturb her sleep. Kanhi smiled and placed a wreath on Her Majesty's head. The young man said that on his way back to the palace he saw magnificent flowers, and he had no choice but to stop and weave a wreath for her. Irian was pleased by his attention, but she took the wreath from her head and threw it into the water. The Empress asked Kanha what made him think that she would like it. When Her Majesty left, the young man remained standing on the bridge, not understanding what was happening to her. The Empress was called, but she did not hear, again thinking about Kanhi. Lord Yem at the meeting again asked Her Majesty when she was going to give the empire an heir. He added that he personally selected 2 candidates, but her approval was necessary. Irian remembered that she had not brought any concubines since she brought Connie to the palace, and she knew that Lord Yem was very angry about this. When the Empress saw his list of candidates, she realized what he was up to. There was the son of the Minister of Military Affairs and the son of the Minister of the Interior. These two ministers emphasized the importance of presenting an heir with a pure bloodline for the future of the empire. Irian knew that they were supporting her for a reason, but because she is the only one who can give birth to the legitimate heir to this empire. However, by killing them without producing an heir, Yem will use this to overthrow her. Accepting or rejecting Mr. Yem's offer, she understood that the result would be the same and he would get his way. Irian decided to buy time and said that she agreed. Late in the evening, Her Majesty went out to look at the stars. Connie, who was also admiring the night sky, saw Irian. But the Empress did not approach him. In the morning, the maid Soka woke up the Empress. Irian said that she would cut off her head if she had something unimportant. Soka reported that concubines had arrived to Her Majesty. The blonde guy said his name was Song, and the dark-haired man introduced himself to Ko. The girl remembered that these were the same sons of ministers that Lord Yem told her about yesterday. Irian looked at their feminine hands and remembered Kanhi. His hands were strong and courageous. They are also big and warm. Kanhi was much smarter than those she had met before. His demeanor exuded confidence, unlike those two. And the way he looks at her with his golden eyes, it seemed that he had nothing to fear in this world. When the young men called Her Majesty again, the Empress palace. The dream replied that life in the palace was more than comfortable. Ko added that they had been here for several days and could not meet Her Majesty. Irian was surprised because she didn't even know about it. The Empress asked what she could do for them. Dream asked why a young man named Kanhi lived in the Wisteria Palace. Ko asked why a man who was much lower than them received that palace. He added that this could disrupt the hierarchy of the people of the inner court. Her Majesty got angry and said that she had every right to decide who should give which palace, just like deciding their fates. Irian wondered if she should kill them right now. But then, she remembered Lord Yem and called General Un to her. She told him that she was giving the Orchid Palace to concubine Sun and the Chrysanthemum Palace to concubine Ko. The young men were happy, but Ko asked what to do with the Wisteria Palace. Then the Empress added that upon their arrival at the palaces, more gold and jewelry would be delivered there than they had ever seen. The concubines thanked Her Majesty for her generosity and left her chambers. Concubine Ko asked his friend where he was going now. Song said that he was interested in taking a look at the palace. Then Ko said that he too would go to his palace. And Song said that he was not interested in his palace because he was going to the Wisteria Palace. Connie lay in his chambers and read a book about how once upon a time there lived a young man. This man stood face to face with a huge python. He killed him bravely. After the python was killed, peace came to the country. But when the young man struck the python with his sword, he did more than just kill it. He betrayed the python's love for him. Python fell in love with this man. Despite his love, the young man still killed him out of anger. Python made his hair the color of the blood he had shed, the same as crepe myrtle flowers. Kanhi thought that he was blushing like these crepe myrtle flowers. He couldn't help Irian, but he kept thinking about her. Suddenly, the maid Soka interrupted his sad thoughts and said that she had brought gifts to the master from other concubines. Kanhi was very surprised to hear about the Empress's other headphones. Soha told him that Handsome Song and Handsome Ko had been chosen as imperial concubines. They entered the palace a few days ago, and now they sent him a gift, since they had not yet had time to greet him in person. Kanhi was upset. Now he understood why Her Majesty had not visited him for a long time. Soha showed Mr. Kanhi the huge chest and suggested that these young men had good intentions. Kanhi thought that there was no point in complaining about life, since he knew what he was getting into, and opened the chest. The chest contained a large barrel on which lay a silver dagger. Soka read the note, which said that she needed to put the dagger in the barrel. When the young man did what was written, a giant jester suddenly jumped out of the barrel at him. Kanhi got very scared and jumped back. Soka picked up the gentleman and said that this did not look like a friendly gift at all. She added that it was more like a declaration of war. The guy said that Soha was exaggerating, and Ko just decided to have fun. Connie said that he had heard from traveling merchants that this was a common joke popular in the western region. The maid asked permission to open the small box from Concubine Song instead of the master. But Kan Yi said that everything was fine and opened the box. Soka noticed his fear and frantically asked what was inside. Kan Yi replied that she was right, and most likely this was a declaration of war. The girl saw a dead snake and asked if this symbolized a python. Kan Yi replied that it was so. And everyone knows the story about how the first king built an empire by killing a snake. The young man added that in this empire, sending a snake to someone means wishing death. Kang Hee wondered how Concubine Song could show such open hostility. Suddenly the maid told them that Concubine Ko and Concubine Song had arrived at Lord Kan Hee's. The guy was very surprised by this sudden visit. When the concubines entered his chambers, Kan Hee bowed and said that he was honored to meet them. Soka also bowed, but Concubine Ko approached Kan Hee and shamelessly touched his face. He said that this means that this is the kind of face the Empress loves. Ko then turned to Sun and said that he was simply curious to see the man the Empress was doing a favor for, despite the fact that he was below them. Concubine Song laughed and told his friend that it was not just his face. After all, what's under his skirt is also important. Kan Hee thought it must be Song if he was so cocky. Kan Hee apologized for interrupting them and said that he was able to gain the Empress's favor simply by telling her stories. The guys laughed. Concubine Ko asked if he really thought they would check into such nonsense. The maid Soka decided to somehow help Mr. Kan Hee and interrupt this conversation. When she was carrying a tray of tea, she deliberately sprained her ankle and fell right in front of Concubine Song. Soka bowed and asked the master for forgiveness. Kan Hee asked the maid if everything was okay. He wanted to call the doctor, but Concubine Song said that he had a proposal. Song asked Kan Ha if he liked riddles. The young man replied that he was not so good at them, but he liked them. Then Song said that if Kan Hee solved his riddle, he would pretend that nothing happened. And if he cannot solve it, then Sun will take this girl and punish her as he sees fit. He added that no one would object since she was threatening his safety. Sun said that she might even be executed. The girl cried and begged for mercy, and Song told her that now everything depended on Mr. Kan Ha, and whether he could answer correctly. Once upon a time there lived a man named Mok. Mok was extremely generous. He gave everything he had to the poor. He gave food to the hungry and shelter to the homeless and shared clothes in the cold. But one day, an evil man took advantage of Mok's generosity. He killed him and took everything he had. After the news of his death, the whole village cried and mourned. The number of people who gathered to mourn his death was so large that they could be seen from a great distance. In front of Mok's grave there were 20 flowers and 100 fruits. Finally Song asked the question, "What is this story about?" Concubine Ko asked his friend in surprise what the mystery was. But Sun did not answer him. Soka began to cry again. She was sure that Mr. Song deliberately asked Mr. Kan Hee a riddle that had no answer. But suddenly, Kan Hee said that the answer is dried persimmon. All three were very surprised by this answer, and Mr. Song asked Kan Hee to clarify his answer. Then the young man said that Mok is not a person, and again everyone was surprised. Kan Hee continued his explanation. He said that feeding the hungry, giving shade to the tired, and giving warmth by burning himself. This is all about him. Mok symbolizes a tree. The villain who takes nature's gifts for granted represents all of us, humans. No matter what people do, they cannot completely uproot a tree. And this stump is the grave. About 20 flowers and 100 fruits that were placed in front of the grave were dried persimmons. When harvesting 10 dried persimmons, the top and bottom are cut to look like flowers. Thus, for every 10 pieces there will be 2 flowers. This makes 20 flowers and 100 fruits. Soha wondered if his assumption made sense, but could it be the right answer? And Kan Hee continued. He said that dried persimmons are pinned on a stick, and this stick represents the dead Mok tree, and that is why this story symbolizes dried persimmons. Concubine Ko looked questioningly at his friend, and Concubine Song smiled at Mr. Kan Hee and said that it was so. He admitted that he underestimated his skills. Then the young man said that it was not surprising that the Empress was favorable to him. Concubine Song apologized and called Concubine Ko to go out with him. When they left, Kan Hee breathed a sigh of relief. Soka ran up to him and asked what happened. The young man replied that everything was fine. He was just afraid for her life. The maid said it was all because of her. She apologized for putting the gentleman in such an awkward position. Kan Hee calmed down Soha and told her that she had nothing to apologize for. After all, she is his maid, specially appointed by the Empress to look after him. General Un overheard their conversation while standing outside the door. Concubine Ko caught up with Sun and asked how this Kan He could guess his riddle, since even he had never heard of this story. Song replied that this only indicated Ko's ignorance. In fact, Song was also very surprised that Kan He guessed his riddle. After all, he himself read it in a book that is more than 300 years old. Sleep looked forward to watching him cry in despair at the loss of his maid. The young man decided that he would try something else next time. General Un told the Empress that it was time for Her Majesty to rest. The Empress said that she still had a lot of work to do and continued reading. The young man said that Her Majesty has been very busy lately. Irian didn't know when Lord Yem would try to rebel against her, so she wanted to be prepared. She said that there is a saying, "A driven mouse bites a cat." General Un replied that this proverb shows how far a person who desperately wants to survive will go. But the Empress said that she thought differently. The mouse must have something that it is protecting. When Irian returned to her chambers, she was very surprised. Concubine Song was sitting on her bed. The young man said that he was offering himself to Her Imperial Majesty. Irian sighed and asked if today was the day. Sun smiled and said that he was looking forward to this night with Her Majesty. The Empress lay down on the bed and closed her eyes. She felt like she was going to faint. But she knew that she must fulfill her royal duty and give birth to an heir. Concubine Song asked Her Majesty's permission to take the lead. The Empress laughed and said that he was very confident in his skills. Sun took off his dress and she saw his abs. The young man asked permission to get down to business. When Soha woke up Kanyi, he asked why so early. The maid told the master that she had just received a message from the Orchid Palace. Concubine Song is hosting a reception, and he must attend this reception at any cost. And since the reception is planned for the afternoon, preparations should begin right now. Kanhi asked in surprise why so early if there was still a lot of time. But Soka said there are traditions they must follow when attending an event of this magnitude. The young man asked what kind of traditions these were. The maid said that the participant in the reception must choose a flower of his choice, a dress, head decorations and shoes. You need to express this flower through clothes and accessories. Soha said that she had already prepared everything, and Mr. Kani just needed to follow her. The first thing they did was visit the bathroom. Dipping his feet into the water, Kani asked why the water seemed cloudier than usual. The girl said it was a bathroom for concubines. This bathroom is created from a pumpkin stem and vine. Cut 2 inches from the ground, they are placed in an empty jar for several days. After a while, the vessel will fill with water. If you wash your face with this water, they say it will become beautiful. That's why it's called the concubine bath. Kanhi asked why the entire bathtub is filled with this water. Soha said that for such an important event, they have to take special measures to make it more beautiful than ever. And also, she poured special perfumes from a distant country into it. And while he is bathing in the bath, his body is covered with the aroma of this perfume. Kanhi thought this was all a bit excessive, but he silently listened to Soha and did as she asked. Then the maid decorated his hair. She said that the flower buds of the apricot tree bloom much earlier than the leaves on the tree, because they can withstand the cold of harsh winters. Since ancient times, apricot flowers have been a symbol of a noble spirit, and since they are the first to bloom among all flowers, they are considered the head of all flowers. Soha said that is why she chose this flower for him. She added that others can decorate themselves with glamorous flowers to captivate others, but the apricot flower, with its simplicity and purity, attracts the eye of the beholder thanks to its image. The maid said the preparations were finished. She warned the gentleman that there might be those at the reception who would try to go against him as before. Therefore, he must remember that they will never be able to break his noble spirit. Concubine Kanha arrived at the Orchid Palace, accompanied by General Un and the maid Soha. The other concubines were discussing why Her Majesty was so attracted to him. Concubine Ko approached Kanhi and said that the Empress's favor did not give him the right to behave like that. Kanhi didn't understand what he did wrong. Ko then said that his lateness could be seen as a deliberate disrespect for all of them. Kanhi replied that he only received the invitation a few hours ago. Concubine Song interrupted their argument and told Mr. Kanhi that he had come and that was the main thing. Then he invited everyone to the table for tea. What the concubines were talking about was not at all interesting to Kanha. Their favorite topics are clothing, jewelry, and accessories. Suddenly, Dream began to talk about how they were all trying to please Her Majesty. He added that he was not comfortable talking about it. But all his efforts paid off when he entered the Empress's bedroom. Kanha felt uncomfortable with such confessions and details. The young man wanted to leave and was about to get up from the table, but Song asked if he disagreed with him about what it was like to share a bed with the Empress. Kanhe replied that he had never been with Her Majesty. Sun laughed and said that he thought he was joking. Then he asked if Kanhe would mind if they checked the veracity of his words. Concubine Song called his two maids, who grabbed Kanhe's hands. He said there was only one way to test virginity. You need to crush the axolotl and pour the liquid onto the person's wrist. If it stays in place, then he is a virgin, and if not, the liquid will drain. General Un stood up for Mr. Kanhe and said that this test was inappropriate, and he could no longer ignore what was happening. Concubine Song asked if he wanted to report everything to the Empress. He said that the Empress would only reprimand him, but no one knew what would happen to the general after that. General Un understood that anyone could make such a threat. However, it would be a big mistake to harm an official of the Empress. But Concubine Song is a different story. A man like him could crush a general like a fly. Concubine Song warned General Un that he should not interfere in his affairs. He added that this was his last warning, and called the maid to him, who was holding a shell with an axolotl in her hands. She placed it on Kanha's wrist, and everyone saw that he was telling the truth. Concubine Song smiled and said that he doubted how he could gain Her Majesty's favor without even spending the night with her. Kanhe left and his maid Soha ran after him. The dream shouted after him that they would see each other again soon. General Un said that he would not report to Her Majesty about what happened, but he added that in the end, the Empress would still find out about his affairs. When Ung left, Song said that the general naively believed that the Empress could protect him. Kanhe ran into his chambers, fell on the bed and buried his face in the pillow. He reassured himself that there was no shame in being a virgin, but when he remembered that the dream had told him about Her Majesty, he felt unbearably disgusted and lonely in this empty palace. When General Un came to the Empress, she immediately asked him how Kanhe was doing. Un advised Her Majesty to visit him soon. The Empress said that she did not see the need for this. She added that it was enough for her to know that he was doing well. Irian said that she just wishes him a quiet and peaceful life. General Un remembered what had happened and promised Her Majesty that it would be so. At night, Kanhe decided to take a walk around the yard. It was quiet and a little cool outside. But suddenly he heard a strange noise and decided to check what happened. He looked into the tent and saw a cage with a lion there. The lion growled at him, but Kanhe still came closer to the cage. The guy apologized for scaring him. Kanhe patted the lion on the head and said that he was also locked in a cage like him. The lion calmed down and lay down, allowing the young man to stroke himself. The next day, a delegation from the Yu Kingdom greeted Her Majesty's concubines. Kanhe thought about how busy the Empress was that she couldn't be here. The representative of the delegation said that he wanted to present a gift to Her Majesty. He pulled back the curtain on the cage and everyone saw the lion. The lion roared and everyone gasped. After all, they only knew about this beast from hearsay. And Kanhe smiled at the lion. The man opened the cage and told the people not to be afraid. He added that this lion was taught from childhood not to harm people. Concubine Ko was scared, but Concubine Song looked indifferent. While everyone was whispering, Kanhe went to him. The representative of the delegation shouted to Mr. Kanhe not to pass close to the animal, and the guy replied that everything was fine. Kanhe calmed the lion and stroked his mane. People were shocked that he succeeded. The man was worried about the Empress's favorite and advised him to keep his distance. The young man told the people that the lion was just scared. A huge crowd, loud sounds, all this worries him. Kanhe told the people that the lion just wanted peace and quiet. Concubine Ko indignantly told Sun that he was annoyed by this show-off. Dream just smiled in response. And at that moment there was an explosion and confetti rained down on everyone. The lion got scared and jumped on Kanhe, scratching him until he bled. The lion was locked in a cage. Kanhe and said that she would call the doctor now. The last thing the young man said before losing consciousness was, "Please don't let the Empress know what happened. Otherwise, the lion will be killed and I don't want that." Soha asked the doctor how Kanhe was. The doctor replied that the wound itself was not such a serious problem. However, something seems to be blocking his life energy. He added that something must be really bothering him. Kanhe felt like he was drowning and couldn't breathe. When the oxygen was almost gone, someone pulled him out of the water by the hand. The young man only noticed long scarlet hair. When he opened his eyes, he saw her near his bed. Can he asked Her Majesty when she came to him. Irian replied that quite a long time ago, and he slept like a baby. Then she asked if he remembered the day he disappeared, and she yelled at him. Kan he replied that he remembered. But the Empress did not say what she wanted. She said she had to go and promised to check on him later. Hearing footsteps near his chambers, the young man was glad that the Empress had returned. But it was Concubine Song. Concubine Ko followed him into the room. Song asked Kanha how he was feeling. The guy replied that it was already much better. Sun replied that he was glad to hear this. Ko indignantly asked Kanha if he did not understand the consequences of his action. He added that no one in their right mind would dare approach the lion as he did. Song also said that he should not have been so reckless, and he added that the lion could have attacked other guests. Ko asked why he liked this creature so much. Kanye replied that the lion is a noble animal with emotions, thoughts, and the desire to protect itself from danger. And the one who blew up the confetti cannot imagine how majestic it is. Dream indignantly asked what he wanted to say by this. Ko asked Kanha directly if he was accusing them of conspiracy. The young man shouted that he did not want to offend them at all. But Concubine Ko got angry and began to destroy his room. He poured all the jewelry from the chests onto the floor and shouted that living in this luxurious palace did not put him on the same level as them. When the Empress brought all these chests of jewelry, Kanye asked why he needed so much. He said he didn't deserve it, and all he wanted were books. Irian said she would throw them away if he didn't accept. The young man said that there was no need to throw it away. The Empress added that her gifts were a symbol of her favor and affection for him. Her Majesty said that she wanted everyone to know that he had her affection, and now all these jewels were scattered around Kanha's room. Irian felt that something was wrong with Kanye and decided to check on him again. When she came to him, the young man was trying to fix the torn jewelry. The Empress was angry that Kanye broke the necklace and pushed him. The young man fell and lost consciousness. Irian rushed to him and began to cry. She asked him not to die. Her Majesty put her sword to the maid's neck and said that her duty was to serve and protect her master, and she failed in her duty. General Un asked the Empress to spare Soha. He said that Kanhe made her swear not to tell Her Majesty what really happened to him. Irian threw the sword to the floor and screamed at them that this was no excuse, because she had to come to her and report everything if she really cares about her master. General Un said that most of the blame lies with him. Since he was aware of everything, he decided to remain silent. He said that Her Majesty can punish him instead of Soha. The Empress said that she was giving them one last chance, but they must remember to protect Kanye as much as she protects herself. Otherwise, she will execute them. Her Majesty asked to tell everything they know. Soha said that they have no evidence, but the one responsible for scaring the lion is Concubine Song. Irian knew that these two concubines might do something because they were sent here by Lord Yem. She blamed herself for not visiting Kanha these days. The Empress asked General Un if there was any evidence pointing to Concubine Song. General Un replied that there was no evidence, but everything indicated that this had been carefully planned in advance. Then Her Majesty asked if she could raise Kanha's title above those two. General Un said that the main role of a concubine is to produce an heir for the Empress, and since Kanha's concubine is yet to spend the night with Her Majesty, there may be a strong backlash from all the nobility. Irian knew this could happen. She blamed herself for not seducing him sooner. The Empress couldn't believe that she was just listening to his stories. Lord Yem said it was excellent. He praised the concubines for what they had done and had come much further than he expected. Mr. Yem asked if he could count on them to continue like this. Concubine Song replied that there were too many eyes watching them, so they will have to tread carefully. Yem said he would take care of it. Then he added that he would prepare a reason very soon. Concubine Song asked what this meant. Lord Yem replied that the occasion would be incredibly fantastic and magnificent. Thanks to him, everyone will be able to see the true colors of Concubine Kanha. Kanhe opened his eyes and noticed that Her Majesty was sleeping next to him on the bed. He noticed tears on her cheeks and was surprised that she was crying. The young man wiped away his tears and Irian woke up from her touch. Kanhe apologized for waking her up and asked how long she had been here. The girl replied that because of him she could hardly sleep all these days. Kanhe apologized for this, and the Empress said that she had nothing to fear. She added that other people have a lot that they are afraid of losing, and they will do anything to protect it. But she just lives her life day by day, and everything that was taken from her was unimportant, even if it was her life. Kanhe asked Her Majesty why she said this. The Empress admitted that it was only after she met him that everything changed. Her heart was filled with fear that she might lose him. Kan Yi hugged Irian and said that now he will not allow anyone to hurt him. He will take Her Majesty's heart and protect it, even at the cost of his life. Irian said it was a very elegant way of saying he loved her. Kan Yi kissed her and said that now it will always be like this, and she doesn't need to be afraid of anything. When everyone gathered in the hall, Lord Yem proposed starting a competition to choose the Empress's consort. Irian was very surprised and asked what it all meant. Lord Yem replied that the Empress's consort is her chief assistant in state affairs, who occupies the second most important position. Therefore, he prepared a 3-round competition that will help select the most worthy of all candidates. The Empress was unhappy. Her Majesty said that she did not remember anything like this ever being held. In fact, she knew that the Lord was up to something. It seemed like a scheme to confuse Kan Yi and throw him out of the palace. Yem smiled and said that he had carefully thought through all the competitions in order to choose a suitable spouse for her. He presented 3 candidates to the Empress: Concubine Ko, Concubine Song, and Concubine Kanha. Then the Lord said that without further ado they would begin the first round. The first round is poetry. This way they can see how strongly the candidates are able to touch the heart of the listener with their descriptions. Express the change of seasons and how one heart yearns for another, through poetry. The theme is beloved. Lord added that it could be someone you love or are resentful of. It could be someone you respect the most. After the command to proceed, Concubine Ko closed his eyes and thought that he should have studied better if he knew. But nevertheless, he pulled himself together and began writing the poem. Concubine Song thought that this was a very easy topic, and he had already written 100 such poems when he was little. Therefore, he was confident that he would be the winner of this round. Kanha's concubine was trembling all over. He read thousands of stories but never wrote a single one. When he looked at the other concubines, he noticed that they had already written quite a lot and decided to get to work. When Lord Yem said that time was up, the Empress was worried. She really wanted their Kan Yi to do well in this task, but she had never seen him write poems before. Lord Yem asked Concubine Ko to read his poem first. He said that he wrote a poem describing someone who feels both love and resentment for his beloved. Lord said he was looking forward to hearing what he wrote. And Ko began, "My beloved, do not open that door, for I will be here forever next to you. So why would you open the door on that dark, cold night? My beloved, you are missing, carried far, far away by the snowstorm. You are nowhere to be seen. I feel the cold air rushing through that open door, my freezing heart, with incomprehensible pain. Oh, my beloved." Kan Yi recognized this poem. Lord Yem applauded Concubine Ko and said that it was a beautiful poem and well composed. He added that the poem clearly reflects his wisdom and intelligence. Lord Yem asked Her Majesty if she liked it, but the Empress did not answer. Concubine Ko said that he could write something even better if he had more time. Then, Lord Yem asked Concubine Song what he thought about Concubine Ko's poem. The dream replied that this poem was so well composed that it seemed to him that he had already heard it before. When Concubine Ko protested, Song said that he might be wrong. Kan Yi realized that Concubine Song and Lord Yem knew that he did not write this poem, but they pretended not to notice anything. And even the Empress knows everything, but it seems she just doesn't want to provoke Mr. Yema. Lord Yem said that he couldn't wait to hear what Concubine Song wrote. The young man said that his poem is about someone who was abandoned by his beloved. The harsh cold winters cannot endure. The winter storms cannot overcome the chill in my dreary heart. Do these snow-covered hills know my pain? Or should I shout to be seen, to be heard? I hear a scream from somewhere. I see a chick on a tree. Why are you alone, little bird? Do not cry, do not you know? Your screams are heard in my empty ears. Do not cry. Because she won't answer. She won't come back. Tears flow down my cheeks as the pouring rain comforts me, and I hide this excruciating pain. The pain I feel for you, my beloved. Kan Yi applauded. He was delighted with this poem. He thought it was one of the most elegant poems he had ever heard. Kan Yi could literally imagine the lines Song read. Lord Yem said it was impressive, especially the way he was able to use the cold of winter as an analogy. After all, in this way he described the pain of separation from his beloved. When it was Kanha's turn, the young man said that he had written something, but it was not very impressive. Lord Yem snatched the scroll from his hands and the Empress jumped up from her seat. The Lord said that Kanha's concubine was a little shy, so he would read for him. Oh, baby, my baby. You don't want to eat, so you cry, cry. You want to go out and play, so you cry and cry. Everyone laughed and Lord Yem asked what it was. Kanhee blushed and replied that he wrote what came into his head and it was his first time. Concubine Ko indignantly asked how he planned to become the Empress's consort. Concubine Song said that he had never read or heard a poem as bad as this one. Kana felt ashamed and thought that he should not have been here. The young man was only worried about whether he had embarrassed Her Majesty. The Empress said that she wanted to hear this poem to the end. Then Lord Yem said that he should start from the beginning. Oh baby, my baby. You don't want to eat, so you cry, cry. You want to go out and play, so you cry and cry. And so you cry like there's no tomorrow. And here I stand bursting inside. Why are you worrying? What are you afraid of? Oh baby, my baby, are you uncomfortable in your new clothes? Or is a terrible night haunting you with bad thoughts? Don't be afraid, for I will whisper in your ear, hundreds, no thousands of times every night. Even though you cannot control the world, you are the world to me. Concubine Ko asked Concubine Song what this poem was about. Perhaps about his beloved. The dream replied that he himself did not know. At this moment, the Empress laughed loudly. She answered the concubines that this poem was definitely about her beloved. Kanhee was glad that she understood that he wrote this poem about her. The Empress proposed to start voting. Lord Yem listened to Her Majesty and asked the imperial scholars to secretly vote for the best poem by throwing the paper into the chest. According to the voting results, Concubine Ko won this round. Sun was very surprised by this result, and thought that Ko had bribed Lord Yem before the competition. Moreover, Mr. Yem said that he would not reveal the exact number of votes. Lord Yem told the concubines that they could be free for today, but tomorrow they should all gather for the second round. Irian asked the maid to invite General Un to her chambers. When he entered, she was reading Kanha's poem. The girl said that this is exactly how she wrote as a child. As a child, she did not like to be limited by the rules and elements of poetry, and wrote poems the way she wanted. She said that Kanhee is the only guy in the empire who dares to try to console her, the Empress. Lord Yem announced the next competition, a martial arts competition. Kanhee was shocked, and the Lord added that the Empress's husband must be strong in body and mind. Concubine Ko and Concubine Song agreed with the Lord's words. Kanhee was afraid that he was the only one who was completely unprepared for this competition. He thought that they were only concerned with decorating themselves. But now it turns out that his body is the weakest compared to these two. Lord Yem said that they would meet again on the day of the competition. Kanhee trained hard with the sword. When he couldn't do it, he thought that his hand could only hold a pen. But the guy did not give up, and decided that training would help him. The Empress was working with papers in her office. Suddenly, she hit the table, scaring General Ung. He asked Her Majesty what happened. Irian said that she is the head of an entire empire. But what's the point if she can't even go and meet Kanhee? General Un assured the Empress that her efforts had paid off. He added that her subjects admire her and public opinion is incredibly positive. The Empress replied that she was trying both day and night, and all to ensure that there are no errors in her work. Otherwise, Lord Yem will try to use them against her. General Un asked if she was worried about Kanha's concubine. Irian replied that she worries about him day and night. Un had never seen such an expression on the Empress's face before. He thought he knew her well, but now he doubted it. During training, Kanhee noticed that he was starting to succeed, and he was happy. "You won't win the competition this way," he heard a familiar voice. General Un came closer to him and asked him if he knew what the most important thing was to learn martial arts. Talent, equipment, strong body? No, the most important thing is to find a capable teacher, he said and smiled faintly. And they started training. During training, a tired Kanhee said that he regretted not practicing martial arts earlier. And General Un, looking at him, thought that he was learning quite quickly. But he understood that this was not enough to win. Kanha needs that extra edge if he wants to win. Maid Soha said that General Un was being summoned by the Empress, and he had to leave. He knew that the guy was training hard, but there was not enough time. General Un thought that he could only hope that he would be lucky. Evening came and Kanhee was too tired to continue training. He lay down on the sand and looked at the stars. The guy immediately remembered the story about the constellations. Kanhee decided to refresh his thoughts and look into the library. Having found his favorite book on the shelf, he saw a scene with martial arts among the pictures. Her Majesty told General Un that she called him because she was bored doing paperwork alone, and he was very upset. After all, He understood how little time Kanha had left. When General Un returned to the training site, he was amazed by what he saw. He asked Kanha how he learned these movements. The guy replied that he saw them in books. General Un was very surprised that the young man managed to repeat these movements, seeing only pictures. He suggested using them because it would be much easier than learning new ones. They continued to train, and General Un added that Kanhi should remember only one thing when performing these movements. Think about what you are trying to protect. Lord Yem announced the second round and said that it was a martial arts competition. The Empress asked who would judge this competition. She added that she did not remember a martial artist in the palace. The Lord said Her Majesty was right, and that's why he invited a special guest. Mr. Kangsek entered the hall and bowed to Her Majesty. The Empress asked what family he was from, since she had never seen this man before. The man said that he came from the Ming Kingdom, and that he was not from a noble family. Irian knew that the Ming Kingdom had vast lands, but lacked natural resources. People in the capital are wealthy, but outside its borders people suffer from hunger and poverty. Her Majesty asked the man what brought him here. Kangsek replied that when he was little, his father brought his entire family here in hopes of a better life. He added that by the grace of Her Imperial Majesty, his family was able to start a new life in this empire. Irian asked who he learned martial arts from. Kangsek replied that he received some training when he was little, but then he had to learn on his own. The Empress asked where Kanhi was. The young man ran into the hall and apologized for being late. After training all night, he found it difficult to wake up on time. Concubine Ko said that punctuality is basic manners. Concubine Song asked what he expected from such an uneducated and uncouth person like Concubine Kanha. And Kanha himself felt ashamed that everyone was waiting for him. The Empress suggested starting the competition right away since they were delayed. Kanhi thought that she was so angry that she didn't even look at him. Irian turned away from Kanha and thought that he was becoming more and more handsome every day. Lord Yem called Her Majesty and suggested starting a competition. Concubine Song came out first with 2 swords. Kanhi looked at him with admiration. It was graceful and beautiful. General Un watched his movements. The movements were firm but smooth, and using 2 swords is a challenge to his dexterity. Only those who are aware of their strengths and weaknesses can move in this way. When Song finished and bowed, everyone applauded him. Kangsek said that Concubine Song did even better than some of his students who trained day and night. Irian agreed that Sun had performed impressively. It was Concubine Ko's turn to show off his fighting skills. He knew that he had to win this round to become the Empress's consort. Her Majesty was surprised at how capable Concubine Ko was. General Un noted that the spear suited Concubine Ko's tall and slender body very well. Using a spear, he can show off both his strength and his speed. Watching how he uses his body, you can tell that he is talented. Mr. Kangsek said it was magical. He noted a magnificent display of true talent. And finally, it was the turn of Concubine Kanha. Kanhi asked everyone to wait for 1 minute and walked towards Soha. The Empress was surprised to see that the maid was painting his face. With painted eyes, the young man stood in the middle of the hall. The Empress thought that this must be something interesting and asked him to begin. Kangsek also prepared to watch the performance carefully after seeing the makeup. As Kanhi began his speech, Concubine Ko said he had never seen such a weapon before. Mr. Kangsek said it is called Sliding Blade. General Un watched Kanhi and mentally supported him. Irian found herself thinking that Kanhi was quite good at this martial art. She was very interested in how he learned this in such a short time, if he had never even held a weapon in his hands before. She also wondered what the master thought. Kangsek looked very surprised, and the Empress did not understand whether he liked Kanha's performance. Concubine Ko said that he had never seen anything like this before. The master said that he could not see anything like this, because this is a traditional martial art of the Ming Kingdom. Then Ko said that it was impossible and he could not learn these movements. General Un came up to them and said that it was so. He said that Kanha's concubine learned them from a book he found in the library. Concubine Song said that this was absurd. He believed that it was impossible to learn martial arts from books. General Yoon admitted that he had met many warriors in his life, and he himself, through training, honed martial arts to the highest level. However, he had never met someone like Kanha's concubine. This is real talent. Master Kangsek asked Kanha where he found the sliding blade. Concubine Ko asked who was interested in this strange dagger. Kangsek replied that his form was quite strange. However, the reason for the sliding blade's shape is that it was not designed to cut through an enemy. It allows you to stab like an arrow or a spear. Concubine Song asked if it would be more effective to use a spear. The master replied that on the battlefield, yes. But the sliding blade is a weapon used by commoners as a means of self-defense. The sliding blade was used to attack at a critical moment and deliver a fatal blow to the attacker. It was used to kill in one hit. Kangseok remembered himself as a child. He hugged his dying father who was wounded by bandits. Tears streamed down the master's face. He added that the weapon was never used in an attack. When the master said that the sliding blade was only used for defense, General Un smiled at Kanha. After all, that's exactly what he told him during training. Master Kangseok said all 3 candidates were outstanding. He added that it was an honor for him to be able to witness such an amazing performance. He told Concubine Sun that his smooth and meticulous movements were an indication of his skills accumulated over years of training. Concubine Ko has a high level of confidence and natural talent, and the performance of Concubine Kanha was a real disaster. There were difficulties maintaining balance. Master Kangseok guessed that it was due to lack of strength. He added that Kanhi showed good skills but the fundamentals were missing. General Un agreed, because a master cannot be fooled. Kanhi was upset because he gave all of himself to this art, but he decided that it didn't seem like it was enough. Master Kangseok knelt in front of him, which shocked the young man. He said that, however, Concubine Kanha showed them the traditional martial arts of the Ming Kingdom, and that really meant a lot to him. Master Kangseok said that he was born in the Ming Kingdom, but he had to hand over his country in order to save his own life. He then recounted the last words of his father, who was stabbed to death trying to protect his son. "Sek, do you see any regrets on my face? If we were sent back in time, I would give my life to protect you over and over again. Remember this place where you came from. Remember the power and never forget." The master told Connie that he helped him remember what he had forgotten for a long time. Kangseok thanked him from the bottom of his heart and promised him one thing. If the time comes when Kanha needs help, he will come to him, even if it is the underworld. Then he turned to Lord Yem. Master Kangseok said that martial arts show what is inside, and the body is only a tool for expression. Therefore, for him, the winner is Lord Kanha. The concubines were shocked by this result, and the Empress smiled. She accepted that Lord Yem had specifically called the martial artist, thinking that Kanha had no chance of winning. But now his plan has failed. She was glad that his head would spin from this unpredictable turn of events. Concubine Ko shouted that he must be the winner, since he showed the best martial arts and not some pitiful movements of the Ming Kingdom. The master became angry, and Lord Yem calmed down Concubine Ko. He said that you need to be able to accept defeats, and suggested moving on to announcing the conditions of the next competition. Yem said that everyone in the empire knows the legend of the python. Therefore, they must perform a dance that interprets the legend of the python. From the history of the creation of the kingdom of Cha, Kanhi was confused by this news. Kanha's concubine stood on the bridge and looked at the pond. The maid Soka asked what he was thinking about. The young man admitted that he was thinking about the upcoming competition. The girl asked if he had danced before. Kanhi replied that he had never danced before. Soha said that she could help him because her mother was a dancer. She performed at national events and taught her to dance too. The maid said that they had little time, so they needed to start training right now. At the dance hall, Soha asked Kanhi to show her what he could do. He got shy and said that he had never danced. The girl advised him to relax and let his body follow his mind. Soha told Kanha that he was doing well, but there is one thing that could improve. It is a smile, because she can change the mood of his entire dance. The girl recalled how it was in martial arts. Movement is a way to show your inner self. Soka advised the young man to introduce someone he liked while dancing. On the day of the competition, Lord Yem introduced the judge, dancer Enli, to Her Majesty. The judge seemed familiar to Concubine Sun, and thought that Lord Yem was up to something again. When Concubine Song began his dance, the Empress liked his movements. It looked like he was playing some kind of musical instrument. General Un thought it was reminiscent of how the first emperor loved musical instruments. Everyone applauded him, and it was Concubine Ko's turn. Kanhi was surprised that Ko wasn't holding anything in his hands, but it looked like he was swinging a sword. Irian thought it was an interpretation of the battle between the emperor and the python. Everyone applauded, and dancer Enli asked Concubine Ko how he felt during the performance. Ko asked what a simple monster like a python could feel. It must be scared to death fighting the first emperor. The youth added that his performance showed the spirit of the first emperor, who fought bravely to establish the Cha Empire. Ko said that he performed with the strength and energy that the first emperor once showed. Concubine Song was outraged that the topic of today's speech was python, and a python's expression of emotion would be more appropriate. Therefore, he showed the sad death of the python. The dancer tried to calm them down, and Connie said that the python did not feel sad because he fell in love. Lord Yem was outraged and ordered concubine Kanha to retract such an inappropriate statement. He asked how an absolute monster could fall in love with the emperor. But the empress asked the lord how he could express the emperor's opinion. She asked why the python could not if everyone in the empire loved his majesty. Enli smiled and invited them to watch the third performance. When Kanhi began his performance using fabrics, everyone was breathless. It seemed to Concubine's son that Kanhi was smiling and crying at the same time, and he didn't understand how this was possible. Soka, watching his dance, realized that everything worked out. The dancer applauded Kanyi and said that his performance was amazing. He said that the dance using cloth is called Gyol Mu, and asked where he learned this technique. Kanyi replied that he had never studied this. He just thought that the flowing fabric resembled the flow of a river. Python wanted to give the emperor the river in which he lives. Dancer Enli smiled and said that the young man spoke as if he knew how the python felt. Summing up, he said that everyone performed admirably, but there was one hatching that he liked the most. And this is the speech of Concubine Ko. Concubine Song knew that this was unfair. After all, he beat it in every aspect, including the interpretation of the theme and technique. But even after the poetry competition, he realized that Lord Yem was behind it all. In the morning, Soha woke up Kanha and said that a message had arrived for him from the imperial palace. I hereby declare that Kanha's concubine will be recognized as the imperial lover. The maid said that now that Concubine Ko becomes the empress's consort, Kanhi will be equal in title to Concubine Song. The young man asked what difference this would make. Soka said that now no one would dare to harm him, because he was the lover of the empress herself, and the fact that Her Majesty now has a husband will not allow anyone to pester her about marriage. Kanhi asked the maid to prepare him for the trip. He said he wanted to share good news with someone. Soka was surprised, but helped him get ready. While drinking tea, the old man asked Kanha whether he should now call him the empress's lover. The young man asked to call him as before son. The man said that he was now a normal member of the inner palace, and he should be addressed according to the rules. Then, he asked what happened to him after their last meeting. Kanhi remembered how the empress hid him for disappearing all night. The young man replied that Her Majesty is very busy now, so everything will be fine. The man said that he did not look particularly happy about becoming the empress's lover. Kanhi replied that at first he wanted to live peacefully, quietly reading books in the library. But then, he met Her Majesty the Empress, and now he just hopes for her well-being. But Kanhi added that he realized he wanted more. The man asked Kanha if he planned to tell the Empress everything. The young man asked how he could tell her this. Python is the god of rivers. When the python died, peace descended on the empire. But the emperor did not kill the python, but his love. Python fell in love with a young man, and he betrayed him. How can I tell her that I am a python? Kanhi asked. Father told Kanhi that he cannot hide this forever. The guy replied that he understood, but could not tell this to Empress Cha, his enemy. The old man said that when the river god asked him to take care of the child, he knew that this was his calling. The calling is not only to raise him, but also to make him happy. He asked Kanhi to trust him and tell the Empress everything. Irian was waiting for Kanha, sitting at the table and looking at the new glasses. When the young man arrived, she asked what brought him to her. He said he wanted to tell her something. Irian interrupted him and said that they had not seen each other for a very long time. She admitted that she really missed him and invited him to drink wine with her from new glasses. The girl said that she was given these special glasses. One of them symbolizes the river and the other, the owner of the river. Together they form a couple, and they say that two who drink from them will live happily together. When Kanhi filled Her Majesty's glass, she said that she thought that she deserved the glass of the owner of the river, as the empress and ruler of these lands. But since her heart belongs to him, he deserves the title of ruler of the river. Kanhi smiled and thanked Her Majesty for such nice words. When they drank from their glasses, the young man said that he wanted to tell something. But the empress suddenly fell to the floor, and Kanhi shouted that he would call a doctor. There were countless assassination attempts. Irian didn't know if it was Kanhi, but even so, she was not angry with him. She didn't regret anything.